Hey guys, welcome back to the channel, and today we've got a project. That requires a little bit of assembly. So I released a video at the end of last year building a chassis of a Kamaz 8x8 being 1/5 scale. Well, finally, most of the cab parts have finished printing. So all I've really got left to do is assemble this big giant mess of 3D printed parts. So that is today's agenda, is building this. So a little bit of a backstory behind the files themselves. I originally found the files on Thingiverse for free, and it was for a WPL build. And you may be wondering, oh, so a WPL is 1/16 scale. This is 1/5 scale. How on earth did I make them files work? Well, as you can see, they are in many pieces. But what I figured out, for what I needed to build, all I really needed to do was blow the file size up to about 300%, and that gave me enough, that was enough to fulfill what I needed. So just trying to have a little sort through what we've got now. We've got some parts I've already started to assemble, same as the main body itself. I've started to assemble. There is a few little bits for the main body which haven't been assembled. What I mean by that is, if you notice, this bit here is currently missing. Well, that's this bit here. We kind of had a few power cuts and a few issues, so some bits didn't print fully. This main bit is actually made up of like several bits, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and then so altogether it's 10 bits, which that is probably about a week's worth of printing. All of this is probably about a month's worth of printing. So it's taken me a while to print all of these bits for this project, so that's kind of the reason why this video is probably maybe going to be a couple months later than the original release video. So my plan is to try and get this Kamaz built for the event called East, which is near Peterborough, and it's in July, I want to say. June or July sometime. But like I said, I want to get it done for that. That's basically the kind of motivation I've got to get it done. So I might as well make a start on assembling this. So I think what I'm going to do is start by assembling the opposite side. So I've already got one side half assembled, so the door, and then there's a front half of the cab. I've got the other half here needing to be assembled. So let's go. I'm just experimenting right now because there may have been like a few odd time cuts through this video. This being one of them, really. This is now probably a month or so after the last clip you've seen. Not the one of me just clear coating, but basically I've been doing quite a bit of it off camera. I've been body fillering, I've been sanding, this orangey colour you see on it right now is actually primer filler. But at a recommendation from a friend who works doing automotive body paint, he said if I'm finding it a pain in the arse to actually try and get it sort of somewhat flat, to clear coat or give it a heavy coat of clear coat to try and flatten out the lines and then paint on top. So that is what I've just tested on this side. Reason why I'm testing it on this side is actually fucking falling to bits, which is kind of annoying. I don't know why this print has decided now to start doing it, but it's started to delaminate on some of the edges. It's delaminated up here. Yeah, so I thought, you know what, fuck it. We'll try. If not, I'm going to try and weather all the bits where it's delaminated to look like it's rusted and flaked off. Yeah. It is a very, very long process and it is taking some out on me. So I hope you keep on enjoying watching this. And we are back, and I've got some apologising to do. So, due to a technical issue, I have actually lost half of this video. So, sometime last year my computer decided to die, and it basically corrupted the video files from sanding to primering to getting the windows done to the test painting on the grill. So yeah, going off the last clip was filmed in April 2004. No, not 2004, 2024. And this clip is filmed in March 2025. Like midway through March. So it's almost been a year since the last clip. And another thing is I've just kind of been putting it on the back burner. I've been doing little bits as and when. Mainly due to just video scheduling. To try and get something out weekly is hard when you've got a big project like this. But some of you may know we've literally come back from Japan in January. So I decided to take January and a bit of February off. And within that time period, I managed to build up a collection of about 6-7 videos to slowly release over the next couple of months. Which I thought to myself, while I've got that kind of backlog, I might as well see how much I can get done with this. So I've done a lot of things to the rest of the truck off camera. So I've started making the bed, which to be honest is almost finished. All that is left to do is 3D model some bedsides and print them and then paint them up. So I don't know whether or not I'm going to include that in this video, but this video was mainly focused on getting this thing done. So as we've decided, after I did the mini Kamaz, which funnily enough I don't know if it was ever mentioned in the video earlier, or I don't know whether or not it's actually mentioned earlier in this video until I've edited it. This is a blown up 3D model cab for a WPL. So it's gone from 1/16 scale all the way up to 1/5. And I think some point while assembling this, I thought to myself, fuck it, I'll 3D print the original one in the original size and also make a mini 8x8 as well. So if you've been a viewer of the channel, you've probably seen that run about, but not this. Anyways, the colour scheme I decided to go with that is a yellow and black. Because to be honest, I'm not a fan of the military look. So with this one, I've decided, as you can see on the test paint for the grille, I've decided I'm going to go red, white grille, with the black on the bottom, and just red all over. And for on the bed sides, I'm planning to do a blue. Which, funnily enough, so at the time of filming a few months ago, Cross RC announced their version of this as an 8x8. But earlier than that, they also announced a 6x6 version, which came in the same fucking red colour and blue back. So I'm probably going to get the comment, oh, you're copying Cross RC. I'm like, no, I had painted this a few months ago and I've now finally got around to actually finishing it off. So, enough chit chat. Let's get to some painting. And that is all for today, folks. So I don't particularly want this video to run over the 40-minute mark, so I'm ending the build right here. There's still a little bit more to do on the cab, but as you can see, the progress is slowly happening. I do apologise about the last clip. You saw me masking up and everything ready to paint the black. Stupid me. Forgot to press the record button hard enough while doing the painting. So you've missed out on just me putting the black down on the wheel arches and behind this fascia. I did do the windshield off camera, but the issue I'm having is the exact same issue I'm having with doing painting on it anyways, where the paint just saturates into the vehicle or into the 3D print itself. And as you're trying to do something on this scale, it's trying to put all that effort in, sanding, fillering. It kind of gets a bit repetitive and a bit boring to keep filming. So I've done bits and bobs off camera. As you may notice on the back of this, I have 3D modelled and started printing the bed sides for it. Which, to be honest, I'm 50-50 whether or not to actually do a completely separate video on or not. Let me know down in the comments on that one if you want to see. It's probably going to be more of the same, of sanding, fillering and shit like that. Which, to be honest, for me, for content, that's kind of a bit boring. But anyways, I think there may be 1 or 2 more videos left to do on this. I've decided I'm going to redo the electronics on it. I weren't very happy with how I first initially wired it up and for those test runs. What I want to do is, I've now gotten rid of the electronics tray which was underneath, and I'm planning to do similar style to the WPL spare wheel mount. So a spare wheel on the passenger side, and then a box here which will hold the electronics. The battery and such should still go on to the passenger side. I will try and 3D model a fuel tank once I've found a battery big enough to power this bad boy. But as you can see, I've got all the bed sides printed, and there is a few other little bits and bobs which need to be attached to the chassis. So these are front wheel arches, so they need to be attached. I want to attach them onto here. I did think about gluing them onto the cab, but then that means if the cab takes a knock or anything and slightly rotates, it may end up rubbing into the tyre when turning. If you don't notice it, it will damage the prints and stuff like that. It's a fun one to try and work out, because currently there's like loads of other little bits I'm very nitpicky about. Like one of them is I messed up on the rear, or whatever you want to call this bit on the bed, but my measurements were slightly off, so it actually sits a little bit too far forward, because my plan is to bolt and glue all the bed sides together. The rear one is going to be on hinges, and I'm going to put a little magnet thing so you can swing it open, possibly load up like an SEX6 or something onto the back of it, and then probably later on down the line make some arch loops and a canvas cover. So I've included all these little tie down points in the print itself. Apart from that, I want to say it's more than 50% done. Like I said, there is a few little nitpicky parts I want to get done, but yeah, like going back on video wise, I think I may do a video on the chassis and the electronics box. I'm probably going to leave the bed out, because the bed is just more of the same repetitive shit which the cab was, and to be honest, I never filmed
building the bed base anyways, so we would be jumping in halfway through that story anyways. So please like, comment, subscribe, stay tuned for more, and I'll see ya.